My name is Joan Balk. I'm one of the librarians at the St. Mary's County Library in Leonardtown. And we have Barb Whipkey this evening with us. She owns the Wild Birds Unlimited store in Lexington Park and also the one in LaPlata. So tonight she's going to be talking about Save the Songbirds. So I'm very excited to hear. I'm like Carol, I've got bluebirds in my backyard and I'm so excited that they're here now, but this will be interesting to hear about the songbirds. Barb loves to see faces, so if you would like to keep your video screens on, we love to see faces. If you have questions, go ahead and type them in the chat. And at the end of the program, I will go ahead and ask Barb the questions one at a time. Or if you feel like you would like to ask Barb a question personally, you can just raise your hand or send me a message on the side and say that you want to speak to her. And we're pretty laid back, so whatever goes, goes. So with that, welcome, Barb.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Aren't you glad we didn't have to go out in this weather to the library for this event?
Yes.
Most of our talks are so upbeat with hummingbirds and bluebirds and all that good stuff. So I've kind of almost been dreading this one because it is some sad stuff, but it's important stuff to hear about. If I had to guess, I would guess that the majority of you are going to be doing a lot of the things we're going to talk about, but where you can really come in helpful in this talk is by going out to social media, talking to neighbors, talking to friends, and spread the education on this. You know, I think as we go through it, probably you're going to, a lot of these you're going to be like, well, duh. Yeah, doesn't everybody do that? But sadly, not everybody does. So there was a study published in 2019. The birds are one of the easiest animals for scientists to study because they are so mobile. One of the ways they do this study is by tracking weather radar. During migration, which is actually happening right now, they can see the large waves of birds migrating on radar. So that's one of the ways. And then also by studying certain species. You know, there's a group at St. Mary's College that studies juncos. We've got a customer in LaPlata that works with the Smithsonian, and most of her time is spent studying cardinals. So it's through these select groups that they've done this study. It's through a journal known as Science. It's a well-known science research publication, been around since 1880. So it's a very reputable group. But anyway, they came out with this sad news in 2019 that 1 in 4 birds have disappeared in the last 50 years. So if you were born in the 70s, 1 of every 4 birds have disappeared in your lifetime. So that's pretty sad news to look at that. Basically, it's 2.9 billion birds during that since 1970. And these aren't exotic birds. These are our common birds, the blackbirds, the sparrows. You know, we talk sparrows, eastern towhees are a part of sparrows. A lot of times sparrows get a bad rap because of those darn house sparrows. But sparrows are a group of birds. And those are a lot of our most common feeder birds that have just up and disappeared. Dark-eyed juncos. In that time period, 168 million juncos is the estimate of loss during that time. White-throated sparrows that we all enjoy in the winter time, 93 million of those have disappeared. So that's some really sad news. So why do we need to help? Well, obviously we want birds at our bird feeders, right? But there's a lot of things that go in hand with birds that benefit us as well. For instance, bird habitat, if we focus on the watersheds and healthy water for the birds, that's going to benefit all of us as well. 60%, more than 60% of our drinking water comes from rivers and streams. So by protecting those waterways and the surrounding watershed, that's going to help us as well. Physical health. If 2020 and 2021 hasn't told us anything about the birds, they are relaxing. They are good for our physical, our mental health. You know, how many of you, the first thing you do when you go home in the evening, you pop right out and take a look to see who's visiting your feeders. You know, first thing in the morning when you're brushing your teeth, you're watching your feeders. We hear it all the time from customers, and a lot of new customers that have come in during this pandemic saying, you know, the birds are what got me through this. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have my bird feeders to watch. So I think the physical and the mental health is a given. And then insect eating. Birds protect farm crops, key ingredients, coffee, wine. A single bird can save up to 24 pounds of coffee bean in an acre in 1 year from pest damage. So when they see those caterpillars move in, my husband and I were watching yesterday, and this bluebird came flying up to a tree and was grabbing onto it by the beak, wings flapping, legs flailing. We're like, what the heck? That tree is infested with caterpillars. Most likely he was snagging one of those caterpillars off there. So there's a lot of things that birds do for us that we don't even realize on a day-to-day basis. So Cornell Lab has taken this study and come up with 7 simple actions to help the birds. These are those ones I mentioned. We're going to go over those in detail. And I think a lot of them you're going to be like, well, duh, Barb, of course, doesn't everybody? But bear with me. Keep this in mind when you're out, you're standing there talking to your neighbor and you see, you know, they're maybe spraying that Roundup or things like that. If you can kind of maybe gently nudge them towards some safer options. So first big one is making windows safer. We've got lots of windows. We've got lots of lights on. Right now, I'm going to ask you at night to make sure for the next couple weeks, turn any outside or inside lights off at night. When birds are flying, they're attracted to that light. So at night, they fly toward the light and that window is there. So flip those lights off, especially during migration in the spring and fall. Outside light, inside lights, any lights you can. If you work at a location where they tend to leave lights on, if you can kind of maybe, hey, could we turn those off during migration season? That's another way that you may be doing it at home, but not even think about, oh man, we leave those on at work. So, you know, some buildings you don't have that option. We've got that here. A couple of ours are wired for safety in the plaza, and we don't have that option. But if you, in our case, what we try to do is put decals and things up. If you've ever been in the store, you've noticed we've got a lot of big decals and things in the window to help cover that. By day, make those windows safer. We have decals here in the store that you can put on your windows. For you, you put them on the outside. Birds have a more vivid sense of color than we do. So to you, it's just going to look like a little white Klingon, but put those on and you want to cover up the space really well to help distract the birds. If you've got a large window that the birds are hitting, we have a feather-friendly version. And I don't know that you're going to be able to see that, but it has white dots in there. So there's a dot, 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 and it's just strips that you just spread those on and rub them on there. So that's a good way to cover up a bay window or a large picture window. And they're not really obnoxious. If you've got little ones and you want to paint a scene on the outside of the window, in that case, you might not want to do it where the paint's going to run down, but if it's on a porch or something that's kind of covered, anything they can do to cover that window. Something as simple as even adding window feeders on the outside. We've got a couple different styles. We were talking hummingbirds earlier. We even have window hummingbird feeders. Anything to break up that pattern. That's going to help with daytime window crashes. Let's see if there's anything else on that one. Another one, keep cats indoors. Sounds like a no-brainer. Keep the cats in the house. I've heard people say, oh, my cats know not to hurt the birds. Cats are cats. They have that natural prey. They're not being bad. They're doing what comes natural. If you've got a cat that really needs to go outdoors, we have people that have taught them to walk on a leash. There's something called catios. If you haven't heard of those, it's pretty cool. It's like a screen box outside so the cats can spend time outside. I used to have a pet sitting business years ago, and we had customers that would have us put the the cat in a crate, which was basically a dog crate, and go outside and sit 30 minutes outside with the cat for extra stimulation. So, you know, honestly, a great way to entertain the cats is feed the birds inside. You know, put a cat tree in the window, or they've got ones that mount with suction cups on the window. The cats are inside, the birds are outside. It's safe, perfect scenario. The other day I was looking and one of the cats was standing at my house up in the window. Would you grab one of the cats, by the way? One of the cats at home was standing, and there was a Carolina wren, and they were nose to beak. Thankfully for us, since this bird seems to think cats are safe, we live back in the woods where there's no stray cats running around, or I would be a little more concerned. But the wren was curious and knew he was safe. So anything like that, you know, try to encourage people to keep them inside. Sometimes there's those cats that have been outdoors, feral cats, and there's just not a lot you can do. In that case, you're going to put your feeders away from bushes so the cats can't hide in the bush. If it's your cat, this is Bubbles here. For anybody who's visited the store, you've probably met Bubbles, and she's wearing this really cool little necklace here. I can put it back on her. There you go, baby girl. Thanks for modeling. So that is a Birds Be Safe collar. It's a bright colored collar, and then it has a reflective band around the outside. Remember, I mentioned that birds have a more vivid sense of color. We used to think putting bells on them worked. That doesn't work. Cats stalk so quietly that bell doesn't ring. So if you've got a situation where it's a neighbor's cat, a feral cat, something that you absolutely can't get them indoors, this can be another option to try. They are breakaway collars, so if they get hung up on something, it is going to pop out. They're elastic too, so if you noticed how I flipped it right over her head. Our store cats stay inside. They just model the colors that we sell here. So that's another. Best case is always having them inside. If a cat, we've heard the same thing too. Oh, my cat just brings me the bird and then I let it loose. Well, guess what? Cat saliva is toxic to birds. So there's a good chance that even though your cat may not have meant to, they puncture the lung, which is very delicate in a cat. It's not going to be a good ending in that case. But the same thing if any of that saliva got onto that bird. So if your cat gets a bird, you definitely need to contact a licensed rehabber and get them in for treatment. So don't just assume since the bird was still alive, it's okay. So that's number 2 is keeping the cats away. Next one is number 3, reduce the lawn and plant natives. We're digging up all the grass and we're planting parking lots and we're putting this golf course style grass in our yards. Bermuda grass, things like that, that just, one, when we take those bushes and trees out, we're not giving the birds places to land, places to hide from cats and things like that, hawks, other things. So the more natural you can go with your yard, the better it's going to be. Lawns and pavements do not offer any type of food or shelter for the birds or the other wildlife. Native plants are a really cool way to go. I'm going to put a little plug in for anybody in the Leonardtown area. There is a new location there. The name is, oh gosh, I think it's the Butterfly Lady. Can't remember if is that what it is, Joan? Is it the Butterfly Lady?
I can look it up real quick, but it's on Hollywood Road.
Yeah.
I'll look it up. Yeah.
So she is selling only native plants. So she's just started this year. And honestly, I have not been by. Most of the girls here in the store have been by already, and just have nothing but good to say. So any place where you can get native plants. Sorry, if you're up in Charles County, I'm not familiar with locations up there, but if anybody knows of anything, a lot of times the Audubon Society and the garden clubs in that, though, will also do sales with native plants. So, but look for native plants in your lawns. Those butterfly bushes that are so beautiful, they're not a good option. It's kind of like offering the birds a Snickers bar versus what they really need. So as beautiful as they are, they're actually not a great choice. So the native plants are also going to add nice nesting areas to your yard. Because they're native plants, they're going to bring in the insects as well that our local birds need. So that's another good one. I do have some good news. If you are in a community in Maryland that has an HOA, there is a bill that has just been passed, House Bill 322, if you want to look that up, but it's low impact landscaping legislation. So HOAs are no longer going to be able to require that you plant Bermuda grass. They have to accept that you're planting native plants. So it's a great move toward getting yards back to being a little more natural. And with those natives, you don't have to use as many pesticides in that either. So it's kind of a win-win. WBU, on that idea of the native plants, another reason to look at getting some native plants in there, WBU has entered a partnership. This was in 2020, so last year, seems so long ago. We are a champions partner for the National Wildlife Federation's Certified Wildlife Habitat Program. That's a mouthful. But basically what it is there are steps you go through to get your yard certified. And it's things like offering nesting locations, feeding locations, water location for the wildlife and that. Joan, that's what our talk is next month, isn't it? Getting your yard certified, I believe. Yeah. So next month, make sure you tune in for that one because we'll kind of go through the different steps that you need to get your yard certified. It's cool. You get
creating a certified wildlife habitat.
There you go. Yeah. So that's in partnership with the National Wildlife Foundation. We had ours certified years ago. It's really easy to do. If you're feeding the birds, you probably have already met most of the steps. And if not, there's just a few things we may need to tweak going forward. You get a neat certificate. You can actually get a sign to put in your yard. We got the sign at first. We were like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, let's get the sign. We live back in the woods. Who's going to see it? You would be amazed the number of delivery people and construction crews and that have been in to do work for us that ask questions about that. And what do I have to do? And what is that? So again, that's another way, even though you may be doing all the things, to spread the word and just say, hey, look at this and, guide somebody else along. And there's nothing like helping somebody else getting started feeding the birds and they send you this picture and what is this? Or, oh my gosh, I have a nest of bluebirds. Or so you get as excited as you did when you had your first nest or when you first hand fed that hummingbird. So it kind of keeps it exciting for you as well. So working on reducing the lawn, planting natives, and that goes right into avoiding pesticides. More than 1 billion pounds of pesticides are applied in the United States each year. Most widely, these are insecticides, people trying to kill caterpillars, trying to kill Japanese beetles. The bad side is, one, if it kills that, that's less food for the birds. If the bird gets that insect that has it, then you're risking the health of the bird. You know, the same, and it's just that whole food chain thing that, you know, if you put decon out and the mice gets it, and then the owl gets the mouse. And so there's so many levels there. So just doing your best to avoid any of those pesticides. That's where it's going to come in handy again with planting the natives. You don't tend to need as many of those pesticides. Leave those insects, let them grow, let them go there. You're going to bring those bluebirds and those other insect eating birds in to dine on those. So yeah, pesticides are just a given. There are organic options out there. I honestly don't know what they are. We are back in the woods. We kind of just let everything go very natural. My husband's a beekeeper, so we don't want the bees gathering the nectar that has things into it. So, but I'm sure if you go online, do your research, you can find some organic ones that, you know, if you need some things to use. And then here's another one that I honestly was clueless to this one until a few years ago, and that's drinking bird-friendly coffee. 3/4 of the world's coffee is grown on plants in the sun. So when they need those fields for the sun, of course, they take down all the trees. They tend to have to use a lot of pesticides and fertilizers to keep that soil healthy and to keep the bugs off on it. There is something known as shade-grown coffee, and we do actually sell several types of it here in the store. I wish this was smell-o-vision so you could smell this. It smells really good. This particular one is a American Red Start. It's a light roast. This is Baltimore Oriole, a decaf. We have it in whole beans. We have grounds. We have a good variety, but it's all through the certified through the Smithsonian. And it is, I smell the coffee now, even though I put it behind me. That smells good. Basically what they do is grow it in the shade. So they don't have to clear cut that. They've got all the trees, which is nesting locations for the birds. And then the birds help out by keeping the bugs and things off of it. So it's really cool. Up to 42 species of migratory songbirds have been documented living in these coffee plantations. Orioles, warblers, thrushes, some of those birds that everybody loves. Another kind of neat thing about it is a lot of these are in poorer areas. So it offers a living wage to the workers in the area where there may not be a good source of income. So shade-grown coffee, give it a try. It actually is very yummy. Like I said, very good smelling. A lot of our customers that have started drinking it are amazed at just how good it is. When I drop an order, his response to me, he'll send me an email back. Okay, we'll start it grinding right now. They literally grind it right before they send it to us. So it's very fresh ground. And yeah,
where's the coffee out of?
I don't know if I even know for sure where it comes. Peru. High in the Andes of Peru.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Well, and actually this one is Central and South American family farms.
They source it from multiple locations.
Okay, so it is coming from different locations, but it is printed right on the bags here.
Good, good.
That was a great question. Okay, so bird-friendly coffee. And then plastics. I'm sure a lot of you are trying to be careful with plastics. Plastics everywhere. I will mention a lot of our seed bags are recyclable, so check on that. You know, it has, our bags all have the little number on it to let you know. We would love to be able to offer our seed in paper bags, but unfortunately we haven't found a good solution to keep the seed fresh and to not let it get buggy. So for now, it's plastic, and then just trying to recycle as much as you can of it. You will notice, anybody who's shopped in the store, that it's paper bags we're using in here. And of course, you can always bring in your reusable totes. I know a lot of stores right now are real iffy about that, but hopefully we'll get back to normal and can start using those again right now. If we do end up with plastic bags from somewhere, a lot of the grocery stores do have a recycling location. Those of you that are up in location or up in LaPlata, our bags can be recycled at the Safeway there. I believe Giant too, but don't quote me on that one, but Safeway you definitely can. So trying to reuse plastic. Straws are another big one. We do sell straws here in the store as well. These are metal straws. This one's like a whole set, and it has your smoothie straw, your thin one, all of them, and then even has a brush there for cleaning them all. So taking your own straws are a good way. And then we also sell just individual straws as well in both of the stores. We've got some reusable totes that we sell in the store. And then a couple times a year, we do give out reusable totes to try to just get more of those. So just encouraging people to use less plastic. You know, if you're in the store and you have a choice of whether to buy these little serving size that's in a bunch of little plastic or just buy one tub, just kind of pay attention to your plastic uses. It takes plastic about 400 years to degrade, and 91% of the plastics that's created. Oh, sorry. We've got these really cool clocks in the store that make bird sounds on the hour, and that just kind of creeped us both out for a minute. Check them out. But yeah, so a lot of that plastic is not recyclable. And then this is an easy one for all of us, but this is another one where you can definitely get other people involved, is watching the birds and then share what you've seen. Probably a lot of you have done the Project Feeder Watch with us or Christmas bird counts. A lot of times if you're on our Facebook group, we may ask you, hey, can you report that on eBird? If you've never used eBird before, I've got the website address for you, but you can always just Google it. It's literally the letter E, bird.org. Take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, count the birds in your yard, and then do a report. The cool thing is you can look back and say, oh, there's my first hummingbird of the year. You enter it in eBird. You can go back and you're in March. It's like, when did my first hummingbird come last year? You now have a record of it that you can see. It will keep you a list of all the birds you've seen in the year, all the birds you've seen in your lifetime. But the cool thing is scientists then use this information. You know, several years ago, the bluebird population was really dwindling. So we've got a great handle on it now, but by people continuing to report when they have those nests or they have those sightings, it lets us keep an eye on it and see if our population is dwindling before it gets to a really scary number. Right now, there is a cool program going on in Maryland, and I think it's a 3-year program, but I'm not positive on that. We are in year 2 of that though, but it's a breeding program. And so this one is done through eBird too. And you'll just go to ebird.org and then type in Atlas, ATLAS, MDDC. You can record all the birds you see right through there. And you're going to put, you know, bluebird carrying nesting material, or male and female checking out nest box, or nest box with 5 eggs. And you'll put your updates in there, but you'll include any breeding statues on it, you know, what you see going on. Because then that, again, the scientists can use that to look at our numbers. And, you know, they may look and say, oh, the cardinal numbers are way down. Let's, you know, kind of focus on trying to revive the cardinal population. So any of those programs, you know, we publicize them on our Facebook page through email when we have those. The Project Feeder Watch is always in February, and basically it's spend 15 minutes at least once during that weekend counting and recording the birds you see. Really easy. You record them, you're done, you move on. But all of those things help. So it's great to do them during those sessions, but it's good just to get in the habit of doing it on a regular basis anyway. Like I said, you're going to have a list then of all the birds you've ever seen in your life, all the birds you've seen in your backyard, because when you enter them, you give the location a name. So, you know, you might put your last name home or something like that. So you can pull up that file and see all those birds you've seen, when you saw them, you know, you can write little notes about it, you know, on Bluebird house number 2 or whatever. So it's a good online record to have. You can access it from your phone, from the computer at home. So if you're traveling, you can still use it and enter it. You'll just put the region where you are. So those are really good ones. So basically, we're going to look over those 7 steps again. Drinking shade-grown coffee, reducing plastic use, doing citizen science. That's one we just talked about, with recording that data, putting that data out there so the scientists have access to it, making your windows safer. And again, right now for the next few nights, you're going to flip off all nighttime lights, and in keeping those cats indoor, using native plants, and avoiding pesticides. Let's see if I had anything else there. Okay, so that's what I have. If you have any questions related to this or other random bird questions, I'm here. I may not know all the facts and numbers on this one. I obviously had to do some research on this one, where I can talk bluebirds or hummingbirds forever. This one took me out of my comfort zone. So easy with the questions. No, I'm kidding.
Barb, I have a question for you. With that ebird.org and well, I'll ask this one first. With the ebird.org, can you download an app onto your phone? Isn't there?
There is an app on your phone, yes, that you can put on your phone.
And it would be called the same thing, eBird?
Yeah, it's just eBird. This is an Android. And of course, it's doing an update, so it won't let me look again at it, but it's very obvious. It's through Cornell Lab. On Android, it looks like a green lowercase e.
Okay.
Capital bird, capital B for bird, and then IRD, that's in black. So kind of a green and black little is the display, but it is really easy to do. You pull it up, the green button there says start new checklist. And I would pick, if it's a location I've been to, I do a lot at Point Lookout and at home, places like that. You can save those there. You can also, I use it a lot if we're traveling. It doesn't have the full features from the apps, so sometimes I will have to go in through Google to get into it. But if you're going to be traveling to a certain area, you can look for birding hotspots in that area.
Oh, great.
Looking like, oh my gosh, I want to see a whatever in this area. You can go on and search by that type of bird. You know, so you're in Florida and you really want a chance to see a painted bunting. You can find your area and then look for sightings of painted buntings to, you know, find parks and that where they are.
Okay, great.
So it's a great tool, yes.
And the Atlas MD DC is an online, I can look up the address and share that in an email tomorrow to everybody.
But yeah, so if you just ebird.org /Atlas MD Atlas MD DC.
Okay.
So if you go in there and set up your eBird account through there, then when you go into eBird, it's going to automatically record them for the breeding atlas.
Great.
So
Okay.
you're not having to put them in two different places. Originally, when they started this, we were having to log directly into the Maryland Atlas to enter those sightings. And
Okay.
now they have linked it. So,
Okay,
and
great.
if you have problems, you just can't figure out eBird or you want extra help, All About Birds is a website that actually has a free class you can take on how to use eBird.
Okay, great. Let's see. I have a question in the chat. If I put up birdhouses on poles with baffles, is that a way to save the songbirds?
Absolutely. So that by putting the baffle she's talking about is a baffle. Got one here handy. This is the style baffle we would use. Not sure if you can see it all in here, but it is it's a stove type baffle. What that does is keep snakes from getting up there and raccoons from getting up there. So if you've got a nest with 5 eggs, a snake or a raccoon gets into it, that's 5 less songbirds that are going to be out there. So yeah, absolutely. Predator guards are great for, in fact, we recommend if you're going to put up a bluebird house to put a baffle on it. The Maryland Bluebird Society says if you're going to put up a bluebird on a house or a tree, please just don't even. If you're going to put one up, put it on a pole system with a baffle on it.
I have another question. Can we get location of native plant person in Hollywood for locals? Yes, I tried to research that while Barb was talking and I couldn't find the title, but I will find that. And when I send out my follow-up email tomorrow, I will definitely have that title for you. I couldn't find it right now.
If you can't find it, Joan, let me know. And if any of our team members are watching this that knows, can you put a note in there for us?
Okay.
But if not, I can check with one of the girls here tomorrow.
I know it's just down. It's if you're coming from Leonardtown and driving towards 243, it's going to be on the right side, and it's after you pass McKay's. I know where it is, but I can't find the title, but we will find it for you.
It has butterfly in it, like the butterfly lady or something.
I tried to type in butterfly Leonardtown, but I couldn't find it. So
good. Hopefully we can all find her.
Right. We can drive there. Okay, so that one we'll take care of. Here's another person says, I've been feeding birds for several years, and that's great. Will we receive info on the certified yard Zoom meeting? I can give you the link for that. We have, there is a website for that we have included in other follow-up emails, and I'll go ahead and give you the link to that as well.
Butterfly Alley. Christy just found it.
Butterfly Alley. Thank you,
That's
Christy. Okay. Butterfly Alley. Now, do you know that right off the top of your head, Barb, do you know the certified yard? Oh, I know. Was this question, do you want to know? Yes, you will receive.
That's our talk next month. Yes.
They're asking about, it's June 22nd, and I will send out the registration link. It's on our calendar. If you were to go to the calendar tonight and just click on June 22nd, you would see the title of that program listed for the evening on June 22nd. And I will send out the exact link tomorrow. But if you want to register tonight, you're more than welcome to register tonight. I'm sorry, I misunderstood that question. Let's see. How low, I'm not sure, how low nectar can go in the feeder?
Nectar.
Okay.
How low can the nectar go in the feeder? I'm assuming, can you grab one of our hummingbird feeders? I'm assuming that you're talking about our hummingbird feeders, which are the saucers. Chip is grabbing one for anybody who's not familiar with that style. Back before I trip over it, make a fool of myself. So these are our style hummingbird feeders. They're basically a saucer style. A lot of the ones with the bottles tend to drip, drip, drip. So the nice thing with these, they don't drip. They're easy to clean. You can add nectar guard tips to keep the bees out. But I think the question was, how low it can get, a hummingbird's tongue will reach all the way to the bottom of these feeders. So that's not a problem. You can let it go all the way to the bottom. The bigger thing is when you see it starting to turn cloudy, go ahead and change that nectar out then, which is another nice thing about it being clear, is that you can easily see when it's starting to go cloudy on you. And if that didn't answer the question, just ask again.
Okay. How can someone receive your store emails?
You can actually sign up through our website.
Okay.
If you go for Lexington Park, it's mywbu.com/St. Mary's County. That's our shopping website. You can sign up there. You can come into the store and just ask to be put on the mailing list. Send us a Facebook message. Just get your email to us basically, and we'll get you in our system.
Okay, so there's probably a link on your website that people can just click on that link and then give their email.
On our, I think it is actually on the shopping portion is where you would.
Okay.
But there may be one on the regular too, but there's somewhere on one of those, there's a spot. But through Facebook, through email, just shoot us an email and tell us and we'll get you on there.
Okay, I'll go ahead and include that in our follow-up email tomorrow as well.
Okay, yeah, great.
Okay. I don't see any other questions. So basically I did have another question. When they are growing the coffee, how have they figured out how to grow it in the shade?
Hang on.
So
Reinforcements.
yeah, it naturally grows in the shade. What
Okay.
we've done is they expose, you can increase yields by growing it out in full sun, but by growing it in shade, you have a little bit lower yield. It has to be hand picked, so they can't use the mechanical processes, but it grows just fine in the shade. It does ripen a little bit less or more varied, which is why they hand pick it.
Okay, that's really interesting. I'm gonna have to try some of that.
Thank you, Carol, for putting out the website. So the one she just put out, if you're looking for LaPlata, you just change that St. Mary's County to LaPlata.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Let's see, can we get the poster with ways to save the birds?
So if you just go on Cornell's website, somebody was asking if you would do a beekeeping class. If you go on Cornell's website, they've got a lot of different types of posters there. If you're looking for them for education and that too, they've got, bigger ones that will show like 1 in 4 birds, things that's more impactful if you're, trying to talk with somebody one-on-one. But yeah, Cornell has taken this study that was done and made some great media sources and things from it. We're fortunate that Jim Carpenter, the founder of Wild Birds Unlimited, sits on the board at Cornell Lab. So it's actually nice that we've got this good partnership hand in hand there. But yeah, as I was doing my research for this, just Google Save the Songbirds, Cornell Lab. And if you click on, up at the top when you search, if you just click on images, it'll pull up pictures alone without all the articles and that.
Well, and it's amazing because we can get all of this help and it's all free. Their website is all free. So they
even have a brochure, a trifold brochure that you can print out. So if you're wanting to give this literature, to people and that, there's just, lots of stuff. But if we don't know that it's there, there's no reason for us to just start Googling simple actions to save the songbird.
Right. And I like what you said about don't put your feeders near bushes, because you tend to kind of put the feeder where there's plant, so that it looks nice. You think about what looks nice in your yard, but those snakes can get into everything.
Yeah,
I've seen them go into my hanging ferns on the front porch, and it's
like
almost like they know where the birds nest every year. So,
So here's a little trick for you as you're checking nests. So if you've got a nest in a bush, or you've got a nest even on a baffled pole system, when you go and you check that nest, circle around, keep going beyond that. Don't stop at that nest and then turn and go back to the house. Because what you did was left a path for the raccoons or snakes to follow. And then your path ended there because you turned and took the same path. So that snake or raccoon now knows to go up. So if you're checking on a nest, keep walking, make a wide circle beyond it, go down back into the edge of the woods, things like that. Don't stop at that nest location.
that's interesting. I would never have thought of that.
That's something I've learned over just the last couple years myself.
Here's another question. I have a hummingbird feeder question. I hung a feeder out shortly after your presentation, which was a month ago. I did not get any hummingbirds the first week. I once heard you should clean and change the nectar weekly, so I did that the following week. 8 days later, I had a hummingbird come and go from the feeder several times. Since it had been more than a week, I brought it in, washed it, put in fresh nectar, and put it back out. I have not had a hummingbird since 2 weeks ago. I had the same question this morning, so you're not alone. Barb, go ahead.
Yes. So those first hummingbirds that we see trick us. So we're like, oh, they're here. And so they feed for a couple days and then they just disappear. Those first hummingbirds are going to continue to migrate further north. So we are basically a refueling station between them, but we may be a life and death feeding station for them, because those early migrators, there's not a lot of natural food sources out there yet. So you're going to see them and you'll regularly see them for 2, 3, 4 days. And then all of a sudden they just disappear. So a lot of those are heading on north. We are starting now to build the population. So clean that nectar at least every 5 to 7 days, clean the feeder, freshen the nectar. I recommend never taking, if you've got 2 feeders, bring one in, clean it, refill it, put it back in and do the other one. Because if that hummingbird comes by while you've got that feeder on, he's going to move on to your neighbors. So go ahead and, when you take that one into clean, hang another one up. I have several that I keep and I just recycle them. These ones are being cleaned and just put out new ones. So as I'm taking down a dirty one, I'm immediately hanging a new one up there.
And one thing you pointed out, which I wasn't aware of, one of my hummingbird feeders would always get mold in it, and I would bring it in and wash it out with Dawn. But I didn't realize you have to put a little bit of the Clorox. What did you say? 1 part Clorox to 9 parts water in order to kill those spores. So keep an eye on that.
So I actually recommend just washing them in vinegar water. Use a little bit of vinegar water to wash them, rinse them well, refill them. If you're having problems with mold, you do need to use a little bit of bleach, because just washing that mold off does not take care of the mold spores. So as soon as you fill it back up, those mold spores are going to start to grow again. So if you've got some that are molding, and if you're using our little nectar guard tips, they do tend to get mold pretty quickly. I just put them in a little cup of bleach water, let them soak a little bit, rinse them, put them back on.
And that's good.
Yeah, if you've got mold there, you definitely need to bring in a little bit of bleach into the picture. 1 part bleach, 9 parts water.
Okay. Now this person wants to know, should you bring your bird feeders in, at what mile per hour wind should you bring your bird feeders in? Should you ever bring them in?
Yeah, so that depends on what you're willing to risk. So our bird feeders, a lot of our bird feeders, for those who don't know, a lot of ours are made in the USA and have a lifetime guarantee on them. That does not guarantee it against wind damage. If you lose a piece, it's not guaranteed against that. So if you've got one that you would be heartbroken if it broke, then I would, if it's a light one, bring it in. Typically about 40 mile per hour winds. is a good number, but that doesn't mean if it's a light feeder that a 10-mile-per-hour gust isn't going to toss it off. When we get into hurricane season, if we've got warnings out, definitely, if it's going to, blow and potentially hit someone, hit a window, you kind of got to think about that. Think about how heavy the feeder is. During hurricane season or high winds, I use a lot of our bark butter on the tree. It's a kind of like a peanut butter consistency, and you can spread it right on trees and birds can eat it. So during hurricanes, I'll also drop our pole system down low, and the feeders will be hanging just a little ways off the ground. But at least the birds can still eat. Throw seed out onto the ground if you've got to bring those feeders in, because if it's windy, the insects aren't flying. So a lot of natural foods are limited for the birds. So you still want to be able to get something out there to help them through it. And especially if it's cold, they're going to expend a lot of energy, trying to keep warm. So if you've got to take them down for wind, definitely find other ways. Ground feeding. If it's a heavier feeder, you might be able to leave it up in higher winds. But your hummingbird feeders in light winds, they are definitely going to sail.
Okay. Here's another question. It looks like everybody's really dying to see these hummingbirds in their yards. So is it true that the more hummingbird feeders I hang up, the more hummingbirds I will have? Or will I just have a certain amount no matter how many feeders I have out? That's a good question.
Absolutely. So hummingbirds are very territorial little buggers. They will find a hummingbird that they claim as their own, and they're going to sit up here, and every time somebody else comes in, they swoop and chase them off. So to attract more hummingbirds, you want to put more feeders and you want to distance them. So put a couple in the front yard, side yard, backyard, spread them out around. Once you've built a big population, then you can get away with, I do a couple stations that have multiple feeders, but then I still have my singles over here. We've been feeding in the same location since 2003. By the end of the summer, I tend to have 20-some hummingbird feeders up, spread out, and the hummingbirds are just flying nonstop all over the place. While they're here with us, that female is going to nest twice, and she's going to raise 1 to 3 babies while she's nesting. So basically, on average, every female is going to bring you 4 new ones. And once you're on their GPS, next year they're coming back. So you want to keep adding those feeders, spreading them around. You don't have to fill those feeders all the way, especially right now, because they're not drinking it up really quickly. So you don't want to be wasting that nectar. So put small amounts in there for now. Then when you get till they're drinking it every 2 or 3 days, you can, then start filling them fuller.
Now, I know you've shown us in your other programs, your pole that has extenders. So you may have 4 feeders hanging from one pole. Can you hang regular bird food next to a hummingbird feeder?
You can. You will get more activity if the hummingbird feeders are spaced away, though.
Oh, okay.
We have arms that can go on our pole system. It's a branch for the birds to perch, and it's a little bit longer. And so I like to put those on my regular bird feeding pole. So I've got the 4 arms close by. And then I take this one and add on to each pole setup. This just twists on there, and then hang a feeder from the tip of it. So then I can hang it out there. So it's spacing it out quite a bit from the other feeders. And that's a good way to be able to get multiple feeders up, because you've got those other bird feeding setups anyway.
And then when you have the one bird that I definitely have a bird like that, where he chases the other ones away. But if you had multiple feeders in your backyard, would that mean, not mean, but the one that's being territorial, would he kind of stick to his feeder and that let somebody else use another one?
Yeah,
Okay.
we will choose that one. Yeah.
He's not going to dive bomb all the feeders.
So that's why we're going to space them. If you've got somebody that's being a real bugger, just try to put the other one out of sight of it.
Okay.
So, you know, in the front yard, the backyard, behind a tree, you know, just some kind of shield between it.
Okay. All right. Well, I do not have any more questions. If anybody wants to ask Barb a question or type it in the chat, we're just about finished with our hour. Barb has all kinds of bird information, so it doesn't necessarily have to be about the songbirds. If you have any other questions, let's see, here's a few. Any tips on hand feeding hummingbirds? I know you showed us last time how you had the little hummingbird ring and you have those in your shop. But
so the key is do it early morning or late evening when they're either refueling from the night or bulking up for the morning. The easy way to get started is to use this feeder. It's got a little hole in the bottom. I will stand out there, hold it just like this, and they'll come right down and sit on there. You can have your phone this way, video it, take a picture as you're doing it. But the key is you need to take your other feeders and put them away. Don't put them down around your feet. The first time I went out to try to feed them, I put them all by my feet and I took this little nectar dot, I'll show you that in a minute, and went out to try. And I hear my husband tapping on the window and I'm like, seriously, don't you know, can't you see I'm busy here? And I turn and look at him and he points at my feet. The hummingbirds are around my feet eating because remember, they can find that feeder from 3/4 a mile away. So you're going to need to tuck those inside, any you're not using, and you'll just stand there where that feeder normally hangs and they will pop right down. They do not have any fear of you. They say put sunglasses on because your movement will startle them. I've never really done the sunglasses. It doesn't seem to be an issue. But if you're using a phone like this to record them, that's going to kind of hide your eye movement anyway. So once you've got that done, then you can really up your game. And this is just a little nectar bottle. It's just a little tiny cup, about the size of a water bottle cap. Stand there, hold it the same way. Again, your feeders are down. You're going to hold this. As soon as he starts eating, lift your finger up a little bit. Hummingbirds like to eat from a raised perch, so they tend to hover above their food. Lift your finger up and they will sit right down on your finger there. If you weren't watching, you would not even feel them on your finger. It's just so light and you'll giggle like a schoolgirl every time it happens. No matter how many times I've done it, it's all I can do not to just sit and giggle when it happens. But again, turn your phone on and you can video it right there. So for the young ones that want to do it, or anybody really, we also have some rings. And so these are really good, especially for the young people, little ones that want to feed them. They can do it this way. They can put it on their hand this way. But it's just, they don't have to have the same fine motor skills to be able to hold the little nectar dot there. But the pop tops off and you just fill it with the nectar.
And I think that's important what you said about the times, because as I've watched mine, they come around 7 o'clock in the evening, 7:45ish, you know, and you do get used to seeing what times they're going to eat. So
and we don't, most of our songbirds do not eat at night. They eat sun up to sundown. So you'll notice like in the evenings, your feeders this time of year around 4 or 5, you'll see a lot of activity there. Then everybody pretty moves on. The cardinals move in, they fill out because they prefer not to be there when the feeders are real busy. And by sunset, everybody's gone for the night. You may have a lone late eating cardinal or something, but the rest are kind of out of sight. So, you know, get them at those times. If it's raining, that's a great time to feed hummingbirds.
really,
Because if it's raining, insects aren't eating, and the majority of the diet of a hummingbird is insects. So if it's raining, the insects aren't flying, so the natural food sources aren't so plentiful. So they're going to come to our feeders a little more.
so right now we're all competing with the insects, I guess.
Exactly, yeah.
There's mayflies. That's why
Exactly,
I don't see any
yeah.
hummingbirds.
Birds know that nature is best, so we sometimes become chopped liver to them.
Yes, that's what I feel like with my hummingbirds right now. So
Uh-huh.
I guess I need to run down and get a few more hummingbird feeders. So,
Yes, increase that population.
well, thank you, Barb. And again, as we've always said, if anybody has any questions for Barb, you can always contact her at the shop. You can send her a Facebook message. I'm going to go ahead and include the link to the Wild Birds Unlimited stores, and that has all kinds of icons that you can click on to get them to contact you back. So, and if you ever have time, go into the store in Lexington Park. That's the only one I've been to. But every time I go in there, I feel like it's Christmas. And like Carol said in the beginning, you have to really budget yourself when you go in because you want everything. So thank you very much, Barb. And again, we will see you next month. We'll see you June 22nd, and we'll talk about getting that certified backyard wild bird certification. So
Yes.
I look forward to that. So thank you very much. And thanks everyone for signing on this evening. And thanks for the extra help in the chat, giving us the address for the butterfly lady. That'll be great. Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Night, everyone.
Hi, everyone.